Thank you. Welcome to the February 14th Planning Board meeting.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. It's a Hallmark holiday if I've ever seen it. First thing is the minutes from last month. We had our organizational meeting, a bunch of correspondence, and paid some bills, and I had the Bloom and the Kasich extension resolutions were passed. So I make a motion to accept the January 17th meeting minutes.
I'll second.
You got it.
Favor?
Aye.
Yeah. We have a list of correspondence. If anyone's interested, it's on the agenda on the table, or we can hand it out. Majority of it is we received 5 new wetlands and special permit applications. That's the majority of it this month. It's quite surprising how many we got. We have 2 bills to pay. The first for EHA, and that was for work regarding the Kasich application and to the 2 extensions. Then there was some discussion, research regarding the Robert application, and discussion about a subdivision that was proposed by a potential purchaser wanting to use create low-income housing, and she did a little research for us. Total of 8 1/3 hours. Bill total $2,257.25. As always, I think this is money well worth our spending. So I make a motion to accept the January EHA invoice in the amount of $2,257.25. All in favor?
Aye.
Our second invoice is for the Rayner Group for the month of January. Joe sat in on the meeting and did some research for the Robert subdivision. 1 1/4 hours, $193.75. So I make a motion to accept the Rayner Group January invoice for $193.75. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have 2 extension resolutions. The first, number 8 of 2023, is for the SH29 Westneck LLC and Robert Lipsite and Lois B. Morris application. Basically, they're done, except the health department's requiring them to find someone to accept a town or a not-for-profit the lot that they sterilized in the application, and they haven't been able to find someone willing to take it at the moment, so they've requested an extension. This will give them a 60-day extension through to April 17th. I think the reasoning is reasonable, and I make a motion to accept Resolution 8 of 2023.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second one is something that I absentmindedly did not put on the agenda for last month, but it played out to everyone's benefit because it took the applicant longer to get the updated plat to us. And so they were able to do that this morning. So I'm willing to move ahead with resolution number 9 of 2023. It's the resolution amending the conditional final approval for the subdivision of the Nelson C. White Estate. And this really just deals with extending the performance bond to April 30th of 2023. And we had agreed to that, and they seem to have met their end to date. So I make a motion to Move the resolution number 9 of 2023. Do I have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So that ends the business meeting. We can move on to the work session. Because we have people in attendance, this is Vacy, you here about talking about your lot line
Yes.
proposed?
Bessie.
Yes, that's Vacy, sorry.
Okay, so what I was told by the real estate agent's lawyer, that after she did a CNR for me, to you do like a kind of give you an idea of what it would be, what you need to do to proceed for a subdivision.
Sure, I mean, we'd love to see what you have in mind and we'll help you as we
And
can.
I don't really have too much in mind. I don't know much about this, other than I wanted to do a minor subdivision. My property is 8.45 acres. And I would say the house and the other buildings probably take up 3.5 to 4 of the acres. So I was thinking perhaps doing 2 other lots, because according to the real estate agents, I think what's holding back my property being sold is that people really don't want to deal with having 8 acres of property to care for.
Okay.
I happen to love it, but that's my just, so I'm not sure what I want to do with it. And there's also questions of, there's a few paper roads around the property. I don't know if you're familiar with it, I'm sure Marcus is. But there's the road that comes up Burns, or off Burns.
Okay,
And according to Gene Shepherd, is actually a regular road that just needs to be, the brush needs to be cleared, that's 50 feet. But there is another paper road to the right of the property. So I don't know how all these issues are dealt with and how complicated it would be to do any kind of a subdivision.
so let me, it seems like you're in doing this as a possible assist in selling your property.
Right.
It is our experience that the subdivision process, a minor subdivision, takes about 2 years to complete. So I don't know if that, first of all, fits your schedule. The reason that it's been taking so long is that you'd actually have to do 2 subdivision processes. There's one with us, the town, and one with the health department.
Right.
And the health department insists that they do their own water test. And we've seen, I think they're getting a little better, but we were seeing 10, 11 months for that water test alone for them. And that really seems to stall things.
Right.
Having said so, if they improve, you might be able to get through a little more quickly. With 8.4 acres, you should be able to easily get 3 lots. You're not in the nearshore peninsula overlay, so we would potentially have the ability to waive the parkland set aside. So we could do 3 distinct pieces. They all would have to have road frontage, which I think you're in the C zone. So you would need 100, each lot would have to have a minimum of 100 linear feet. Or we could do potentially up to 1 flag lot, which would need a 20-foot width, with the other 2 lots having 100 foot of frontage. Now, you're saying you have different roads, so if those are really, if that, the road that Gene Shepherd was mentioning is a true road, then one of those lots could be getting the frontage on that road.
But yeah, they wouldn't have 100 feet of frontage, right? I mean, they would just have, the road would be the only.
You have to have, the property has to have a minimum of 100 feet on that road. I'm presuming that an 8-acre property, do you have a copy of your survey? You said you were going to bring it in.
My survey is clean, so I just added where the newer buildings are. I got at least to give you.
So you will have to update your survey. Definitely. I don't know if you guys can see it. So what's this distance here? This is Ram Island Road and this is Church. That's 125 maybe? And so if that would be closer to 400 or so. So you would, you could have even a flag lot or a 100-foot lot that access back here. Or you could, potentially get a flag lot here, 100, and then the property on another. So you could have 3 stacked. There are
Kind of
different,
like that.
there are all different ways of doing it. I don't know if there's any wetlands on the property. I know there's a big wetland over here.
Yeah, that's quite, quite a bit of ways from me. And who is it that figures out that we're?
Well, you can work directly with a surveyor or someone who processed these through us. One such person would be Matt Sherman. I don't know if you know
Oh,
Matt
right,
at all.
right.
So he could do that. There are surveyors can do it, some attorneys do it. So it's up however you want to approach it.
Yeah, because I checked with the Community Preservation Fund, they weren't interested. And the 2 years doesn't really scare me because I've had the house on the market for almost 2 years and I haven't had one person come look at it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
be sitting, sorry I didn't start it 2 years ago.
Do you still have horses?
Right now I'm boarding 2 horses to a friend. My horse passed away, so that was fast. Yeah.
Yeah, so,
No, I mean, it's a great piece of property and I actually hate chopping it up because I like the animals and.
yeah. So, I guess you said you had someone do some CNRs. Are there any CNRs that prevent further subdivision of this?
No, she found no, that there was no encumbrances on the property, but she thought the right-of-ways had to be looked at on the neighbors' properties.
Could be.
Because back there by Jean Shepherd, there's a driveway that goes up to the Roper property. That's, part of it is on Jean's property, part of it's on mine, and nobody really cares. But there's still a paper road that goes right in front of that, and I think.
I'm starting to sell those things, Matt.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then, I know my own cousin said, don't buy this property, there's too many roads. But it's like in the back by the rock wall, that rock wall has been there for 100 years, but 17 feet on my side is actually part of the paper road that goes through. So if somebody wanted to, I guess they could pursue that, I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess the next step would be get your survey updated. And mentioning to the surveyor that you're planning to go ahead with a subdivision. I recommend a topographic study of it, so certain layering. And then they should be doing a title search and confirming what paper roads exist. It should be part of that.
That's part of the survey?
The surveyor should be able to provide that.
Okay.
To be conservative, would you say, I mean, it could be more than 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
that's,
think that's it. I
yeah,
was gonna say, I've seen longer years.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah.
But you gotta have all your ducks lined up, get the survey fresh,
survey.
everything.
Right.
is your house relatively new or is it an older house?
No, it's an older house. It's
Have
in
you-
good condition.
Have you ever replaced the sanitary system? Because
Oh,
the
yeah.
one thing that Marcus ran into was that the health department insisted they upgrade the house sanitary system before they allowed further subdivision. So you had to go
okay.
through that whole process.
Well, I think I upgraded it when I got the house, which was going 1998. And then when we finished the garage, then I know they put in another cesspool
Right.
in the back.
That was a big job, yeah.
Yeah, right, it was. So,
Yeah, but 98 was what it was?
well, 98 when yeah.
So if you had a health department certified system, then you might be able to keep that. They would just have to pump it and examine it, get an engineer to sign off on that it's still usable, serviceable and all that.
Right.
So,
Well, that would be the newer one was for the garage. The original one with the house, I did when I moved in, so that was older.
so you might not have gone to the health department with it. You may have just done it, maintenance. Back then, they didn't require.
I don't really
Yeah.
remember.
So you may end up having, if you have to replace it, you have to put in a new IA sanitary system.
That takes time.
Right,
It's a bit of time too, so.
right.
So I would budget more than 2 years, so if there's an urgency about selling, maybe, I
Yeah, maybe.
wouldn't hinge on that.
Now, what happens though, once you start the subdivision, is there an issue with selling if somebody
No.
comes along?
The applicant, you can either just fold it, or the applicant can take it over, or you transfer it into their name, or however you want it. But clearly, an updated survey would be, it may assist in the sale too, because the seller wouldn't have to necessarily go through the expense of 8-acre survey.
Right. All right.
Beth or Joe, are there any other things that when she approaches a surveyor that she should ask the surveyor to put on the plat?
The location of the well,
Yeah,
And your neighbors too.
and with regards to the well, have you replaced the well since you purchased the property?
I know I had work on the well. I don't think I replaced it, no.
Okay.
It was just work on it.
Because being that there's an existing residence and you have a well, the health department will probably allow you to use that well for the sampling, the testing of the water there. But you need to have a well certificate from whoever installed the well that labels the depth of the well and what the length of the screen is and the size of the well and all of that information. But it could save you from having to drill another well somewhere on the property for one of the other lots.
So,
I've also found in my personal experience that I was able to, in absence of a well certificate, have an engineer create one, but you have to get a well company to pull the well out and understand how deep it is and give you all the information, tell you what
Right.
the horsepower of the engine, the pump is, and you may even end up, just because you're doing this service, replacing the pump while you're at it, so you can say you have something new.
right. So, yeah, oh, it's okay. It's a certainly involved
Mhm.
process.
Yeah.
And then you said you also have to know your neighbor's
Yes.
location of wells, so.
It's not for us, but for the health.
That's for the health department, you'll
Yeah,
need
so
them.
just to think about that.
And how do they do that? Do they just contact the neighbors and?
Some of them have records, some of them pull up, can foil the health department for the neighbor's
Yeah, the
information.
new ones, you could get them online, actually. But if it's an old one, you gotta do some digging, you gotta find an old surveyor.
Your surveyor could probably help with some of that.
Okay.
The starting point, I think.
Right, okay, so, yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead with the survey, and the rest is kind of like you just get and jump in, or let's say you can go
Yeah.
fly.
Yeah, and then maybe a quick conversation with a consultant who would help you out might help too. Whether it's a Matt Sherman's who I sees on, or someone else, an attorney, if your attorney wants to run the show.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. All right, well, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay. Are you guys here for something?
We're just here for the UC wetland.
Oh, okay. Okay, let me just, we'll go to the wetlands. I'm just going to go through a few of the open applications we have now. Last month, we extended the final submission for deadline for Bloom Minor. They are still struggling with the health department, and but I was on the impression they're pretty close to being able to file something with us. Item 2, we're done with. We received the additional copies for the Kasich minor subdivision, so we can just take that right on off.
Finally. That's easy, right?
Yeah.
Marcus?
The Robert subdivision, Matt presented to us some information last month, and we looked around. We had some opinions on it, but Matt has to provide us with a new survey, I believe. How are you making out with that, Matt?
We're working on getting the owners to engage a surveyor. I'm trying to get Twin Forks on as the successor to Marty Hand. I submitted to the board the old Hand survey that we had used as the base for our sketch plan. And then also I'm looking at, once we can get a surveyor engaged, I'm going to look at that discrepancy in those old 1970s deeds that had the access to that 50-foot right-of-way, and the discrepancy in the lot size and the discrepancy in that right-of-way, so we can get those things squared away. But yeah, as soon as the owners engage a surveyor, I'll be able to give you a little bit better time estimate as to when we're going to be getting to our next steps.
And then we went and spoke to the building department regarding the 16-foot wide access off Ram Island Road. And building department gave us a response that I guess basically they want us to reach out to Richard Smith to determine this or put in, because the road isn't wide enough and there's worried about, and it's not the 20 or 25 feet it needs to be. It doesn't act as a fire apparatus access road, asking if we would, to avoid going to the ZBA or to contacting Richard Smith or someone to put in a sprinkler system, whether that's one of the things.
I'll
Or
look
no.
into that. Richard Smith, my impression, I thought Richard Smith had retired.
Yeah, I guess what he means by Richard Smith is the whoever's
Oh,
there
the
now.
department, okay.
Yeah.
I'll look into that to see whether that fire apparatus access road requirement applies based on what it is we're doing, and if so, what we need to do to either meet it or meet an equivalent like sprinkling and or things like that. And I'll do some research on that and get back to the board as soon as I can on it.
I mean, a sprinkler system, they aren't too complicated. You need a water tank in the basement, a battery backup, trickle, and then a pump, and then the grid in the house. But that's one option. I think what the building department was worried about is that there's another 2 properties that access off that road, or just at least one, and that you could potentially have 4 or 6 structures needing access, and that pushes you to the emergency vehicle access road. So
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll look at that and I'll see what I can pick up on it.
but it sounds like we're mostly on hold until the survey's updated and you can figure out whether you even get access off North Cartwright to prove that.
Yeah, that's the most pressing issue is getting that, those couple of questions answered. And then if those come back with positive answers, then we'll move on to the next set of questions.
Yeah. Okay, so and we just extended the deadline for the SH29 West Neck LLC. So that we're set on that one. This is a general note. I went to the work session last Tuesday for the town board, and they brought up transferring the wetlands to us, the wetlands code changes, and they're going to have a public hearing on the 14th of March. So that's pretty straightforward. So our wetlands applications. Gucci's, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we wrote a memo and submitted that to the town board already. I don't know, did you get a copy of that memo?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any questions for us regarding it?
No, I figured I would listen to, if you were discussing it tonight about it, and just see.
Okay.
I'm totally unfamiliar with this whole process.
Oh, okay. We are currently an advisory board to the town board. So we read your application. 2 members went to your property, took some photos and put the report together. And we've submitted that to the town board. So basically our involvement is over on that part of the application, unless the town board has some direct questions for us. We did contact the building department, and there's some belief that your freshwater, your kettle hole, whatever you want to call it, was man-made, probably by Punch and Scratchy back in the 70s, and for Ken Lewis Sr. And only seasonally has water in it.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's our belief that the fire department would probably prefer to draw water from your pool. From that.
Guarantee you.
We're not gonna do anything at it.
If they were there this summer, they weren't drawing water from anywhere.
Yeah, so, we didn't have any particular problems with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I figured we'd just show up here just in case there was a question, you know.
Well, thank you.
Well,
Thank you
it's
for
nice
that.
to put a face to a name.
Same here, I know two faces already.
Yeah, we submitted that, what, 2 weeks ago or so, and,
Yeah.
and I guess the board will do what they do.
Yeah, I think the hearing's on, 28th.
Yeah.
We've likewise submitted the ISAR River Trust, 149 North Ram Island Road special permit. As far as we talked about that last month, so as far as I'm concerned, we're done.
Yep.
The 5 Winthrop LLC special permit is on
Thank you.
hold.
Thanks a lot.
Pending an updated denial letter. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I think we're waiting on that. Matt, are you working on 5 Winthrop?
Yes, I am. We've got the updated denial and I submitted the revised special permit application to the building department for a completeness review, which we got back today as everything's good to go. So we'll be submitting new application packages in the end of this week. So you all should have them by beginning the middle of next week. It's in essence the same project, except in order to have the new accessory building, we needed to add a conditioned connection between the 2 buildings that are on site now. So it really added 444 square feet living area to the plan that you guys had already had. But the overall site plan, the overall project is 90% the same as it was what you've already looked at.
Great, and I think there's a draft report already have been developed. We've just been sitting on it, waiting for the new information, so we should be
Yeah.
able to get that pretty quickly.
Good.
Okay. Matt and I reviewed the Johnson special permit. It's actually a site plan review, 14 Man Waring Road. Matt, do you want to talk about it a little bit? Do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, you and I went and looked at it and basically decided that the building, partly because it doesn't have sanitation, running water, things like that, is okay, and also is consistent with other structures on that road. You've got the farm across the street, the farm stand, what is it, the U-Haul rental
Scott.
next door, and then
Next
the
door.
ambulance building right next door. The drainage looked good because they've already built that berm over behind the containers.
Right, so it won't go on the ambulance property.
Yeah, so it won't go on the ambulance property, and it's far enough away from the residents that it doesn't seem to be an issue.
Yeah, so,
Parking is adequate. We looked at it, determined pretty quickly, didn't see any real problems.
Yeah, it's on that island. It's in the road goes around it, right?
yeah, it's right in the center.
So they don't even have to change the driveway.
Unfortunately, you won't be able to see the log pile anymore, but
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing.
It's a very strange, yeah, I was wondering what was going on there, so it's good.
all right, so I'll send this in tomorrow.
Yeah, that's,
Wait, that hasn't gone in yet, but
We're just done. I just wanted to talk about it before I submit it.
yeah.
The next one is Alpha Nest. And
Hold that one to the end.
is David and I went to that.
We can talk about it.
we can talk about it. We have a draft written.
Yeah.
And this is one very similar to 42 Garners Bay Drive right next door.
Yep. Similar in some way, yeah, a lot of ways. Yeah.
Do you guys want to describe it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the main thing is it's a pretty large acreage, about 6 acres. So it's a bit larger space actually than 42 was. And they're basically wanting to take the home that's there and remove it and put in a new home, a larger home. So basically changing the overall square footage from around, it's a 7,600 square foot bedroom, dwelling, 5-bedroom, to a much larger, almost, how big is the new one? mean, it's going up to 7,000. Yeah, the new one is 7,600. The previous one was like 4,700. So it's a pretty large increase. But as far as percentage of the acre, it's still well within the bounds of normal that's allowed on the lot size. I think the major things around it are around making sure, and there's no wetlands impact at all, so it's all just special permit for the size. So it's kind of like we've already approved a larger one just next door, and so it's a little bit smaller actually. And I know that you had some questions that I wanted to go over, but there's nothing too crazy about it, given the size of the lot and what the town's already approved right next door.
One thing I saw was that the pool is being refurbished.
Yeah, that's one thing I've actually missed in reading. I saw that when I went back and looked after your notes, it was really good. But so they said they're refurbishing the pool, but there's not really a lot of information about the refurbishing of the pool. That's probably why I didn't catch it, because I only noticed it in retrospect in the denial letter. So yeah, I think it's perfectly reasonable to add in that if they do redo the pool, that they do the normal things we keep on asking them to do pools, which is cover and cartridge. Yeah, so I think we can easily add that. The other thing that I did not know about, when we saw the tennis court in the same place, I didn't realize they were renovating or doing anything to the tennis court, because basically there was no mention of any change to the tennis court, other than on the site planning, it talks about, what do they call it?
Except that we did notice it needed work.
We know it needed work, but I didn't know they were going to do what's called Hartru, which thank you, Ian, always being educational. I got to learn what a Hartru is.
It's the granules from an asphalt roof.
Yeah, no,
They use.
But it's better for your joints, right?
Yeah.
well, what's interesting about it, and I went and read based on what you said, the maintenance requirement, which means you need to water it. And that was the big thing, which
It's not a clay court per se, but it acts like a clay. You have to keep it hydrated, because otherwise it blows away and
in reading, you have to water it at night usually, and then usually sometime during the day. So that's going to take quite a bit of water, and I didn't see anything in the plans about how they were planning on doing that. So I think it's.
So that brings up a couple questions. I guess, Matt, do you have plans, are there plans to put in a cistern in this project? Because there's nothing shown on the site plan. And with Ed Hollander involved, I'm sure there's a lot of plantings. And so was thinking that maybe this is something that you would be putting in.
Yeah, that's actually something that came up at the CAC meeting last night, not necessarily with respect to the tennis court, but with the plantings in general. And Ed was on the Zoom meeting last night as well. And he and I are going to go back and talk about what the needs, the forecasted needs are going to be for irrigation for the vegetation in order to get it established. And we can look at the tennis court as well, to see what kind of irrigation needs there are for that. Right now, we don't have any cisterns planned, but we can certainly look at that and see if it makes sense to bring in an 8,000 gallon cistern that can be used for both the tennis court and for that, getting those plantings established. I know that Ed's, his design strategy in a project like this is to try and keep it as minimal irrigation, as minimal as possible for obvious reasons. So we'll look at that, and we'll come up with a reasonable plan of attack on both of those for the town board hearing.
Okay, so the next part about it is the tennis court. If I'm correct, it was March of 2021 when the town board was contemplating wetlands code changes, and they wanted to ban permeable tennis courts. And their neighbor, 42 in the resolution, says that the tennis court has to be impermeable. But I personally think a hard true court is a safety issue. It's someone's joints hold up. If you do a face plant on it, it doesn't hurt as much. It really is better for health. And if it is built right, and we would need to see details, where instead of sprinklers that are spreading water rampantly into the air and hoping that some land on it, if it went through a soaker hose in the hard true bed and I've seen them where they've done them with a perimeter drain and a water collecting cistern to take stormwater or excess water, and it collects it and then reuses it. If it's detailed correctly, then I think I speak for myself, I guess, I could put my weight behind it.
Yeah.
But I noticed that the town board said no to at 42 Gardens Bay Drive, but it's not code. So
Right.
where's this going?
That's the thing, yeah, we need to like come to a consensus on how we wanna handle them, because like what you just described, I have no problem with. But, you know, there's I think some confusion on understanding the different implications of each one.
Would-
A hard court with drainage versus a hard true court, like a softer court that you then have to irrigate. You know,
Not to advocate for any one project or element, would it make sense for Matt to bring or have a consultant, a builder attend and describe the system to the town board?
it will not.
Yeah, that's exactly what we'll plan on doing. I believe that the hard true court is already existing and they're just looking to refurbish it and resurface it. And really, I don't know that much about hard true courts, their construction or their maintenance. But I will talk to the design team and we'll come up with with a good plan of attack, as I said before, to not only handle the maintenance, the rehabbing of this court, but then also the ongoing maintenance of it.
Yeah, it would be helpful to know if it was pre-existing. That would definitely have an impact on what we write into the report.
And Matt, they do need quite a bit of water, watering twice a day. They do need yearly maintenance where more hard truths added. The lines get pulled up, put down again. So it's not a simple thing, just as asphalt with a painted surface.
Yeah. Well, and I'll confirm the existing status on that and let you all know either tomorrow or the next day.
We can certainly highlight it in the memo we have for now. These are, the other mention I think you mentioned was about the wire back silt fencing,
And the pool.
the double layer, and the pool as well. Yeah, so pool we already mentioned, we talked about. You had a comment, Ian, feedback about should we mention the double layer wire back silting? I do mention the silt fence, but I can expand.
Yeah, I just.
More direct,
It's
more exhaustive.
separating by, they're making an effort, concerted effort, so I enjoy seeing that. And they have a SWIP, they've submitted a SWIP, which
Yep.
I don't think we saw on their neighbor's property.
I can't remember, but I can't recall. It's been too long since we did that.
And then otherwise, I was just going through what I could presume would be some of the resolution components that the town board will put on this that are very similar to the 42.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that.
Have you guys talked about the lower well flow, Matt? Did you mention that to your client, which the town board has been asking a lot of lately?
Yeah, and these sites, I mean, I'd mentioned something at the hearing for the neighboring site. We've got a lot of groundwater in these locations, so it's not as critical here as it is in others, but in the spirit of being overly cautious with groundwater, we're proposing a 5 gallon per minute well with a holding tank, so that we're kind of staying consistent with all of these waterfront properties and proposing that kind of a potable water system to minimize negative impacts on the aquifer.
The rest of it is just pretty standard stuff during construction and whatnot, so. Cool, thank you.
So I would ask Ian, do you want me to revise based upon the comments you have today, or do you want to wait for subsequent thing? Or
I think you can revise based on the comments today, and then we're actually tasking the town board with
we're writing up.
and educating themselves maybe on tennis courts.
Yeah, so I'll just highlight it, the Hartshorns, for example. And I'll add the pool.
The next wetlands application we had was McCain, and Julie and I went to go look at it this morning. I think it's fairly straightforward. Do you want to describe a little bit, or?
Right, so they're going to be demolishing the house, I believe doing a new foundation, but they're actually bringing it back to where the back part of the property is facing the water. They're going to be moving, they're going to be moving the stoop and a little section of the house.
There's the stoop,
Yeah,
there's a little
and there's like a little section right here.
little section of house. So they're
They're actually
actually
bringing it out of the regulated area.
Excellent.
not fully,
Not fully,
just
A little bit more. And they're upgrading the septic, they're putting in the new septic system, and they're also moving the well. So we saw the old well there. And one tree is gonna have to be moved right on the northwest.
So Matt, this is yours again, right?
This-
Yeah, that's another one of mine.
Yeah.
Yep.
You've been very busy.
A little too busy, but yes. Yep.
Then we did notice that there was like the existing cabana looked like it was pretty new.
Yeah, so that, when was the guest house, the pool house built?
Matt Cass just built that a couple of years ago. I'm gonna say 3 years ago, maybe, give or take.
Okay. And it looks like they moved a couple of those very large, nice hollies, and that the new locations seem like they're not the best.
I don't know. I look at, I don't know. I wasn't really,
Yeah.
I don't know where those are, but.
But they're not doing the pool over again, just.
They're not doing the
according
pool
to
over.
According to the application. Is that correct, Matt? or no?
Yeah, that's correct. Right. We're not doing anything to the pool or that cabana. Right.
And you're relocating the propane tank, even though the tank looks like it's freshly seeded in its current location, so.
Yeah, in order to put the new well in, we had to move the well over. The health department wants 100 feet from, they don't require it, but they strongly suggest 100 feet. So that's why we're relocating that propane tank.
Yes. Well, it looks pretty straightforward. You're reducing the regulated area intrusion by a little bit. You're adding stormwater collection. You're putting in the IA sanitary system. So it looks fairly straightforward. Okay. The next one we have is the Keller Wetlands application of 56A Cartwright Road. We have a memo on that. Yep. Do you guys want to describe that one?
Yeah, so it's a very narrow property, very narrow and long, and it's non-conforming because it's been there for a while. The required two variations from the ZBA that were approved as far as setbacks, and that went through. You guys got that through. The overall change is basically an addition of a second floor in one building. There's already a two-bedroom accessory building that's tall already, so it doesn't necessarily make it any, from the road, you won't be able to see the house. So it's not really that visible. It is actually reducing overall some of the deck space that's currently in the regulated area, which is great. There's a little increase of deck they're asking for, relatively small. Overall, it's less on the regulated area. In addition, moving the septic out of the regulated area, which is huge. And so it seems from an impact wise, much better, good stormwater runoff. So we recommended it, work be done. It's again, a very small amount of square footage. They want to actually do some building in the regulated area, but it's relatively small compared to the amount they're actually moving from the regulated area.
And I think the distinction to make here, it's in the vegetated buffer.
Excuse me, in the buffer, correct?
It's not in the adjacent, well, it is partly in the adjacent regulated
small,
area, but it's unlike McCain, which is completely in the adjacent regulated area. This is a little more sensitive.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
technically it's only, 100 square foot Do you know what is the total more than 100 square feet of what they want to build the deck, enlarge that deck?
The enlarging the deck is, I think it's like only 40, so, but what the major addition that's in the space is that's on the setback.
There's two
Yeah.
sections of the front deck that
Yeah,
are.
exactly, that are in the-
Getting squared off, a total of 84 square feet.
Yes.
On
That's
the,
stable.
within the vegetative buffer of new deck. But then,
Yeah.
as Matt had mentioned, we've also got 155 square feet of deck being removed, or that's on the side of the house. So we've got 84 coming in, 155 going out of decking within the vegetative buffer.
Within the buffer.
What about new structure in the vegetative buffer?
89 square feet, which is an existing deck, which is going to become part of the, get absorbed into the house.
A small corner that currently is that's going to be now become part of the house.
So it's pretty close to a equal exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought overall, when I looked at the plans and how you attacked it, Matt, that I thought you guys did a good job trying to come up with a reasonable compromise to not affect the wetlands.
And the new deck will have larger gaps, allow rainwater to go through. It's not a tight board.
It will have absolutely large gaps so that you cannot wear high heels on this deck.
Don't expect you out there, Matt, wearing your high
Weddings
heels.
on the deck.
Are there any other thoughts about the memo written, or is it good to send in tomorrow?
I think it's good to send in with the small change, the date change you made, which was the date, which was a good highlight to.
It shows the house was built in 1953 and the
Yeah.
town adopted the code in 59, so
Pre-existing, yeah, pre-existing.
predates.
Yeah. No, so I think with that, it's ready to go.
Okay. And we have one more application, which a hearing date has not been yet set for, I believe, and that's for Liberty Lawn Care. And Marcus and I have not yet had the opportunity to go look at it, but I'm presuming it's going to be very similar to the Johnson application.
I looked at it today. They're just building a barn, you know?
Matt, that's you again?
Walter is doing it himself, but I did help him craft the application. But yeah, in essence, they're building a barn. There is going to be some office space in it. There is an IA sanitary system and supply well associated with it. But it's really just to support his lawn care business. Yeah, next to Christian Clark's and the old House of Glass. What's the bank building now?
Yeah. Bridgehampton.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll start working on that and get it together fairly soon. So that's all I have for this evening. Does anyone else have something they'd like to talk about? Someone on Zoom, any questions? I think that's it. None of you guys, anything you want to talk about?
That was a much busier month than I expected.
If that's the case, I make a motion to close the February 14th planning board meeting. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Matt.